All right, in this video, we're going to talk about combining triads with the minor pentatonic scale. These are things you already know. Simple triads, 3-note chords, and then the minor pentatonic scale, just one position of it. But how do you connect those two things, and why would you want to do that? Well, the reason you'd want to do that is you get a more meaningful sounding lead. It sounds much more purposeful or thought out, I guess is a better way to say it. So we're going to be taking a look at a blues in the key of A. It's a 1-4-5, and we're going to be looking at those triads over each of the chords and then integrating in that minor pentatonic scale. It's actually very cool and things you already know, but maybe you just haven't thought about combining them in this way. Here's what it sounds like. All right, so that's what we're going to be learning, a very simple little blues, but don't let the simplicity of this fool you. It's actually, there's quite a bit going on here. We're going to be touching on chord tones. So I'm going to go over the chords that we're using and how I'm visualizing those, and then we're going to be using the pentatonic scale, minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. Everything that I'm playing is a combination of those two things, chord tones mixed with that pentatonic scale. And we're going to be looking at triads. All the chords are really pulled out of very simple little triads. So the first one we're going to look at the 1 chord. So this is played in the key of A. You could play this in any key, just depending on where you start, on the neck. But we're going to be doing this in the key of A, and I'm starting with this triad. So if you picture your A bar chord, your major bar chord, it's just the top 3 strings out of that. That's how I think of it anyway. So that's the A shape. Now if I add my pinky up here to the 8th fret 2nd string, I'm playing an A7, A dominant 7, and that's a triad, so it's an A dominant 7 triad. And then I can slide my pinky down 1 fret to the 7th fret, 2nd string, and I'm playing an A6 chord, or an A6 triad. So you have your A major, A7, and A6. And they're all very easy to play, and they're all in the same little area here. So that first thing that I play all comes out of a combination of that A7, the A6, and then the A major chord. All right, so that's what we're going to be doing over the 1 chord. Actually, let's go ahead and break that down first. So the first thing that I play, look at this. These first 3 notes are just the notes of the chord of that A7 triad. The only difference is I'm sliding into that 3rd interval there. So sliding into the 6th fret 3rd string. Then we go down to the 7th fret 2nd string, down to the 5th fret 2nd string. And you can see where this is coming from now. And then I landed on the 7th fret 2nd string. Now don't just let this go past you and just say, okay, cool, that's a lick. You can do a lot with that. In fact, whole songs have been written out of pieces of this, even less notes than that. I think of the song Rock Me Baby, that blues song. It's something like this, right? And then you go to the 4 chord, using the same technique. So you can think of it that way too, that everything we're doing here is over the A chord, right? Well, you could take the same thing and play it over the D chord up here, right? And then your 5 chord. So any of these little licks, when you're learning them this way, if you connect them to chord shapes, it starts to make them much more usable, I guess. Okay, so that's the first lick, and this is kind of the call in this call and response blues. And then after that, I went into the minor pentatonic scale. Check this out. Walked right down the scale. It couldn't get any easier than this. I started with the old strings 1 and 2 on the 5th fret, the Chuck Berry, I always call it that. And then we go down to the 8th fret 2nd string, 5th fret, and then 7, 5, 7. So it's just walking right down minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. And I love that, combining these two things. You've got the chord tones in the first part, and then you've got just the minor pentatonic scale. And you can go back and forth. And so I go back to the 1 chord part, and then the second time I went, So that's also minor pentatonic scale. Same kind of thing, the timing's just a little different. So it's 5th fret 1st string, 8th fret 2nd string, 5, 7, 5 on the 3rd string. So let's look at the timing of this. So from the beginning we have, by the way, when I slide in there, that's the 1. So if you're counting it out, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so that's what we do to the second time. The timing is just a little different. Now watch this. Do you hear it? You can hear it that it went to the 4 chord, even without me playing a chord. Right there, that's the beginning of where the 4 chord would be. Now let's go through 3 shapes, 3 more triads off of this D shape, or the 4 chord. So we're going to be thinking about the A shape out of Caged, but the top part of that chord. So that's how I'm picturing this. So I'm picturing the D chord like this, that triad. I'm also picturing the D7 like this. So that's where we take these 2 strings are the same. The only difference is this 3rd string moves down to here to give you that dominant 7 triad. And that's how I'm playing it, barring the first 3 strings on the 5th fret, and then, you know, playing the 7th fret 2nd string with whatever finger works best. So we've got that we got your D major, D7, and then we've got a D7 like this. And that's what we're going to be using. So that's barring the first 3 strings on the 7th fret, and then we got the 8th fret 1st string. And you can think of that as like your A7 chord, you know, down in 1st position, but if you're playing it up here, you're obviously playing a D7. So you've got D, D7, D7. All right, so when I come into that D part, I come out of that minor pentatonic lick. That's where it starts. That's the beginning of the 4 chord. And what I did there, that's the minor pentatonic scale. All of that. And then I walked up here. Now that note is not in the minor pentatonic scale, but that would be playing chromatically. So what I'm thinking about is I'm picturing this D chord, and I'm just walking up to it chromatically, meaning I'm hitting every note along the way. And as a little sidebar here, anytime you got 2 notes with a note in between, like in the minor pentatonic scale, you can play those notes in between. You just don't want to land on them. So you could look at your entire minor pentatonic scale, and even when there's 2 frets in between, you could go. You know, now you wouldn't want to just go right down the scale, but you can fill in those gaps in between the spaces, is what I'm saying. So play around with that and see what you can come up with. All right, let's go back from the beginning. We have. Now from here, we go into that D7. So that's out of that D triad there. So 7th fret, 5th fret 1st string, back to the 7th fret, 7th fret 3rd string, and then down to that dominant 7 note, 5th fret 3rd string. And then the second time I went, right? Sort of another version, another D7 basically. So we played a D7 and a D7. Slid into that note again, 7th fret 2nd string. And then up to that 8th fret 1st string from the chord there. And then the song goes back to the 1 chord. Now I could have just went back into that, but we've done that a lot. So to make it more interesting, I played it like that. So I was already up here to that 8th fret 1st string. So I know if I just go up 1 fret, I'm playing that A chord. So I'm picturing that A triad up here using the D shape. And that would be the 3rd interval out of that chord, just like this note, but you're playing it an octave higher. So I'm sliding into that note with my pinky, and then back down just the way we played the chord before. And then play that again. Now we're going to go to the 5 chord. So now to get to the 5 chord, I come down into that minor pentatonic scale and play the 7th fret 4th string. Now watch this. So after I played this, we go into the E chord. the E7. That's the 5 chord. And what I'm playing here is I'm playing the E chord in this position. So that would be if we took our C chord in first position, we played it up here with the ring finger on the 7th fret 5th string. You could put your pinky down on the 7th fret 3rd string and play those middle 4 strings. That's your E7. And I'm just playing. So I'm sliding into that 4th string, 6th fret, 2nd string, 3rd string, out of the chord, out of that E7. And then walk it down 6th fret, 4th fret, back to the 6th fret. So, sounds like that. All right, let's take it from the 4 chord. Back to the 1. That's that note to get us into the 5 chord. Now, from here I went just right back up into the minor pentatonic scale. So it's 7, 5 on the 2nd string, 7 on the 2nd string, 5 on the 1st string, 8 on the 1st string, back to 5, back to 7 on the 2nd. And now I realize that this note is actually not in the minor pentatonic scale, but it is in D Mixolydian, which I've covered in other videos, so I'm going to not go there, but that's where that note's coming from. But the other notes are all minor pentatonic, so just that one note would be, you know, the reason it works is because it would be D Mixolydian. All right, so from that 5 chord, and then back to the 1. And then I just walked it down. Walked it right down the minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. 7th fret 3rd string, 5th fret 3rd string, 7th fret 4th string. And then we repeat that, 5th fret 4th string, down to the 7th fret 5th string. And you can throw in your E chord there if you want, and then you can just loop through it again. But that's the whole thing, and what I like about it is it's all played in this same neighborhood. You've got your A major chord, your A dominant 7 chord, your A6 chord. Oh, that's all played there. You've got your D chord, your D7, your D7 up here, and then you've got your E7 right here. So everything is played in the same neighborhood, and your minor pentatonic scale is right there. All right, so let me back up. I'll play through this one more time. We'll play through it slowly. I'll put the tab on the screen, and then that'll wrap this up. Hopefully you can take these licks and break them down and start using them when you're improvising. Play along with a jam track, play along with a song, just put them into use. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3.